Just to just to sort of move slightly away from this week, I mean, tell us a little bit about your method. I mean, you've been everywhere. You've been on the front line. We were discussing on our car journey south, which perhaps you want to talk about your trips into the Kursk region of Russia. This is where Ukraine 6 months ago staged a mini and surprise counteroffensive and seized a chunk of Russian territory, and really against the odds has been holding onto it. I mean, you've been there, you've been everywhere. How do you work as a journalist in Ukraine? How do you get good stories, and how do you stay alive?
There are all different answers to your questions, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a complex one. Maybe the difference is that I'm not aiming to find the story, but I'm aiming to get as close as possible to what is really going on, and to meet someone who could be the best example, the best way to go through the story. And in the all ongoing visual coverage and also in written stories, I just felt really lonely with the fact that we have the most documented war of the history. We have TikToks from trenches, and we have satellite images used. We have amazing maps and infographics. We have drone images from bombed and ruined Ukrainian cities, but do we really have a human in all these stories? So the method, if to say shortly, would be just find a human and get as close as possible to the human, because I truly believe that we should stay personal in all our reporting. We should keep sharing personal stories more than trying to have the wider look over the story. In terms of our recent trip, it depends that the story is online already or not.
No, I know. Well, I think you can talk about it. I mean, it's going to appear tomorrow, so I think we're too late. I don't think there's time for us to be scooped.
Yeah, we went for the future lithium mine in Ukraine, which everyone is talking about, these amazing resources, and everyone is interested in. So it's kind of a special feeling to stay in the field, which is literally everyone is talking about. But visually, it doesn't look that spectacular, even when the weather was nice. And what you was asking about Kursk, I would not say that for me as for person it was something I badly wanted to cover. I felt inconvenient reporting from Russia under Ukrainian control, let's say like this. But it's the part of the ongoing story. It's the part of the way, and I was just trying to get as close as possible. And coming back to a question, how to deal with this, how to stay alive, sometimes it's about luck, and sometimes it's about to say no to the places and invitations which seems too risky. I also accept, I just accept the fact that I could get injured or get killed. That's part of the job. And but I would not recommend anyone to rush too close. We had too many bad stories already about our colleagues who unfortunately were killed during covering this war and sacrificed their lives for this. I also have this internal feeling that I should find a human and I should get closer to this human. and internal feeling that that's my country, that's my story, and that's my war, which is happening. So there is no other way or other mission which I would find the more acceptable for me personally. I remember then when revolution happened, the friend of mine put the vest with the red cross, and I was asking, like, are you a medic? Do you know how to help people? And he was like, no, but I think that when there is revolution happening, you should find your place and you should find your role. So I probably gonna be a medic. And for me, that was obvious that I'm going to be a journalist and I'm going to report with my camera no matter what.
Isobel, you and I have been on the front line together. In fact, one of my most memorable trips was when we got shelled. I can't remember if that was your fault or my fault, but I mean, tell us about some of your, you know, some of the places you've been. I mean, you've been everywhere. And also about your method and your attitude to risk. I mean, is it the same as Julia's? I mean, how do you see it? I mean, because you work for the FT, the Guardian, the Washington Post, you know, different foreign editors, perhaps with different demands. I mean, what's your view about frontline work?
Well, I mean, definitely compared to photographers and compared to Yulia, I'm sure I haven't done anything nearly as dangerous. I mean, for me, especially the last year or so at FT, they're not so keen on going right up to the front. That's not what they really want. But the first year, especially the first few months when I was at the Guardian, that was probably the most dangerous because, you know, especially the first month when the front line was just moving around Kiev region and you weren't sure where things were necessarily or where, you know, where the Russians were. We also visited Kharkiv in March, and that was I just remember everywhere we went, basically everywhere we went was bombed, and pretty much the same day that we were there. And it was really, really because the artillery was very close to the city, and so that was kind of very frightening. But since then, I've kind of been going less and less, and that's partly because of the way that, you know, I think at first editors also didn't necessarily know where the risk was and where, you know, what was dangerous and what wasn't. And the same thing with insurers. And I've been really lucky to work for publications which have insured me. And so, yeah, it's been less and less dangerous for me personally, but I know that for other journalists going to the front line right now, it's totally different because of all the FPV drones, which can fly something like 12, even 15. I mean, Yulia can probably tell you, but behind the front line. So it's kind of pushing journalists further and further back. Same thing with hotels, like starting, I guess it was, when was it? Was it summer 2023 when they started to bomb all the hotels in the frontline areas? And it was
they start with Druzhba in Pokrovsk.
Yeah,
right after they hit Ria, this pizza place in Kramatorsk. In a week they hit Druzhba hotel.
And basically that also really scared editors, journalists, but also made it logistically very difficult for a lot of journalists to go there and report. Not impossible, but just you have to drive 3-4 hours, spend a few hours in one place and then drive back. Like some journalists stay overnight, but not everybody can do that. So yeah, and then our famous trip, League. Yeah, I mean, those are definitely the days as well. I think at the beginning,
you should explain what happened, or do you want me to?
I can explain. I can tell my version of the story.
Okay.
Well, we were going to visit a soldier who actually texted me the other day. So he was the owner of a hotel in Konstantinivka, the hotel, I think it was Europe. And he and his son went to fight. And we were going to meet them in Mariinka, which at that point was half controlled by Russia, half controlled by Ukraine. It's just like a small town along the front lines. And we were kind of driving down and we got stopped by the military and they said, "Are you sure you want to?" And I was like, yeah, they're going to meet us. And I thought they were going to meet us at the checkpoint just after where we were, but we were driving, and we couldn't see them. And the closer we were driving, we were basically almost in the town, and then we met them and got shelled, and then decided to get out pretty quickly. So we didn't actually end up doing the interview. But he texted me the other day. He's in Austria now. He was injured, and yeah, so he's living there. And he said his hotel is completely destroyed, but his house is still standing.